Good evening, everybody. Thanks for braving the traffic tonight. I heard the stories about the parking lot that you were sitting in on the way out here, and Randy and I were in Wheaton this morning, and we got a little taste of that, but we got ahead of it. Thanks for being here. Eric, thank you for the warm welcome, and thank you for the continued friendship and partnership through Park Community Church. We've got a number of things actually going on here at Park. We're doing a Wednesday night series called Critical Issues, and Eric and I are talking about doing a lot more. So I'm excited to be associated and working and partnering with Park. So just keep watching our website, or if you're at Park, look for the announcements, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more. Thank you to those of you who came from the farthest. You're going to give the book away at the end? That's okay. We forgot to. Who came the farthest? We had people coming in from Sycamore, right? Anybody come from farther than Sycamore? Okay, we brought a prize to give away. It's whoever drove the farthest, and it's a signed copy of one of Randy's books, Unlikely Converts. He actually interviewed over 40 college students to talk about their conversion experience. So Steve and Jane Pace, you're the winners for tonight. Yeah, we got so excited we ran right through that. I'll just say real quick, because I want to get to the main event tonight. If you don't know about the C.S. Lewis Institute, we've been here for 10 years in Chicago, but we've been around since the 70s, and we are all about discipleship at heart and mind. So anything we can do to build you up in Christ, and so that's the effort tonight, to do it through the arts. And I'll let Randy explicate that a little bit more directly, but if there's anything we can do, if you're not here from Park Community Church, if you're another church, know that we exist to partner with and come alongside the church, so let your pastors know. We also run events like this that you can come to individually, so we are definitely interested in seeing you grow in your discipleship, and that's our mission. Okay, don't let the name C.S. Lewis throw you off. We love C.S. Lewis, and we will do C.S. Lewis-themed events, but it doesn't always have to do with Lewis. And I don't know that there's going to be a ton of Lewis in tonight's presentation, so that's a little bit of a taste. I do want to turn it over, though, because we're going to talk about music tonight. We don't just want to talk about it, we want to experience it. We want to taste good music. And so this is why I'm really excited with the partnership with Renew Chicago, because they had some great connections and reached into the Park family and found that we've got folks at the People's Music School. And I'm not going to get into it too much. I'm going to let David Sands come up and tell you about the People's Music School and the pieces we're going to hear about here tonight and hear from these particular artists. So, David.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Sands. I serve as Senior Manager of Artistic Engagement at the People's Music School. We are a non-for-profit that our mission is to deliver the access to the oh my gosh. So it's funny, our president and CEO is here, Miriam Owens, and she is an amazing public speaker, and she is constantly talking about our mission, and I've heard her say it so many times, and there's always the emphasis on the word access. So as I was thinking about the word access, I forgot the entire mission. So our mission is to provide access to the benefits of high-quality tuition-free music education. We have 4 locations. Our headquarters is in Uptown, and we have partnerships with 3 CPS schools, one in Albany Park, Hyde Park, and Back of the Yards. Through our mission, our students achieve musical excellence and also explore skills that are beyond the musical notes on the page. Tonight, you will hear one of our SLAM honor students. SLAM is our program designed for our older, more advanced students. This student is actually a private student of mine. And all I can say, you can read about her in the program, but all I can say is that it's been truly an honor to work with her over the past years since she started in elementary school. She will be performing an excerpt from Camille Saint-Saëns' Carnival of the Animals. I use this piece to teach students about musicality and expressivity using tools like vibrato and legato phrasing. So I always often tell my students to think about how Saint-Saëns picked one of the most beautiful animals and paired it with one of the most beautiful instruments, the cello. Following Lily's performance, we have one of our amazing piano faculty members, Bethany, who is also a member of this church, and she will be performing a beautiful arrangement of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Liliana Gonzalez and Bethany McKnight-Cameron.
Thank you, ladies. That was great. Now, if I can get this to go down a little bit. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. Randy Newman. I've known Randy for at least 10 years now. I got to know him when I was living in the Washington, D.C. area, which is where our headquarters is at and where he used to live. We've been discussing about his recent move to Austin, Texas, and how hot it is there. But I got to know him there. He was with Crew for over 30 years. He's the author of a lot of books. I can't even count them, not just including the one we just gave away. You may have heard of a book called Questioning and Evangelism, which I think is on his 3rd edition right now. Is that correct? That one's a classic evangelism book. If you haven't read it, I highly commend it to you. But anything that Randy writes is really good. It's really accessible, and it's really helpful in helping you live out your witness. He came on with the C.S. Lewis Institute probably around 8 or 10 years ago. He's our senior fellow for evangelism and apologetics. He's been teaching for us and all over the country for a long time. And he also studied music. And so when we're talking about having him here in Chicago, this is something that he's been mulling over for a while. And I said, well, let's just talk about this because evangelism's important, but God speaks to us in many, many ways. And I think music's one of them. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Randy Newman.
Well, can you hear me if I use the microphone like this? Does that work? Good, okay. Well, let's not just talk about music. We've already heard beautiful pieces. Let's just listen to another one. Let me just, before I say anything about music or how we try to start thinking about it, and what this really means is we'll see whether I can make this thing play music. We'll see. That works. I always feel bad speaking after that. It's just so stunningly beautiful, isn't it? I'm sorry to do this. I'm hearing something else. Is anybody else hearing something else? Because I may be going crazy or something. Is someone on? Oh. I'm sorry. Okay. Ignore all that. That piece of music. It's an aria from an opera. It's called O mio babbino caro. That was an instrumental version of it. I was in a used bookstore, And when I'm in a used bookstore, I'm on a mission. I want to see every book in the store and buy more than I should. And I'm flipping through this section looking at books, and all of a sudden that piece of music came on, and I froze. I just stopped. I couldn't concentrate on anything else. And there was only one other person in the room, the woman who was working at the store. But we both immediately looked at each other, because when you're struck by beauty, you want to share it. And we both looked at each other, and we didn't dare say anything until the piece was over. And she said, "It takes you to another world, doesn't it? Isn't that what music does? Or it points us to another world." Music is such an interesting art form in that it must occur in time. And yet so many people say that when they hear a piece of music, it's as if time stands still, or it's as if they were lifted up to a place where there is no time. I'm just so fascinated by it, and I'm drawn to it. So I want to talk about music. I want to quote some things that other people have said about music. I want to play a few excerpts along the way. I will tell you, almost all of the excerpts I'm going to play are classical, because it's the genre of music I think I know the most, or I've spent the most time in. But each of the points that I make could also be illustrated with jazz, rock, folk music, all sorts of things. So if you're not big into classical music, try to just step into it a little bit and see if you can enjoy some of these principles. And the first principle I just want to share from what we heard there and the two great performances of the live music is that music seems to make us think that there's something more, that we're not just molecules, that the world has something about it that can't be captured with just tangible, physical displays. Sergei Rachmaninoff was once asked to describe music. He said, "What is music? How can one define it? Music is a calm moonlit night, a rustling of summer foliage. Music is the distant peal of bells at eventime. Music is born only in the heart, and it appeals only to the heart. It is love. The sister of music is poetry, and its mother is sorrow." And so many people have tried to capture, what is it about music that draws us in? Why do we pay large quantities of music to sit in a hall where everybody stops talking and we listen to one person or a whole orchestra play things, and we stay silent, and then we erupt in applause? What is it? Why is it that we're drawn to music like this? Leonard Bernstein said about Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, Beethoven leaves us with the feeling that something is right in the world, that something checks throughout, something that follows its own laws consistently, something we can trust that will never let us down. Now, I love Leonard Bernstein, and I love Beethoven, and I love Beethoven's Fifth, but never let us down? I'm almost always let down when the piece of music is over. It's like, oh, couldn't it have gone longer? By the way, these are new for me, and this is a whole new experience. When I don't have these on, I can see you really well. I can. I have no idea what's on here. And then when I put these on, it's like, oh, that's English. Where'd they go? So I apologize in advance. But biologist and philosopher Lewis Thomas was once asked, what one artifact could we send out into space as evidence of human achievement? If we wanted to somehow connect with other planets or other solar systems or other galaxies, what would we send out into space as evidence of human achievement? He said, I would vote for Bach, all of Bach, streamed out into space over and over again endlessly. And then he added, we would be bragging, of course. Isn't that wonderful? Friedrich Nietzsche said, without music, life would be a mistake. Now, if you've read anything by Nietzsche, you know that's quite a statement, because it sure seems to me that when I've read Nietzsche, I think he thinks everything is a mistake, but he says music is not a mistake. Robert Greenberg, a great musicologist, says that music is an expressive rightness, a precision beyond the power of words, beyond the world of concrete things. Music awakens us to the fact that maybe, just maybe, there's more to life than what we can see or touch. Did you see the movie Shawshank Redemption? Do you remember the scene when Andy Dufresne, the main character, he locks himself into the warden's office and he finds a record and he plays it over the loudspeaker? It was a duet from a Mozart opera, Casti fan tutte. And the music goes out and everybody freezes. All of the prisoners in the yard, the guards, everybody freezes. And then Morgan Freeman's voice, which I will not try to impersonate, his voice comes over as the narrator and he says, "I have no idea to this day what those two Italian ladies were singing about. Truth is, I don't want to know. Some things are best left unsaid. I like to think they were singing about something so beautiful it can't be expressed in words, and it makes your heart ache because of it. I tell you, those voices soared higher and farther than anybody in a gray, drab place dares to dream. It was like some beautiful bird flapped into our little cage and made those walls dissolve away. And for the briefest of moments, every last man in Shawshank felt free." And then if you remember in the movie, Andy Dufresne got into a lot of trouble for that, and he got thrown into solitary confinement. And the next scene is when he's finally let out. I don't know after how many days or weeks in solitary confinement. He comes back and sits down for a meal with his buddies, and they all asked him if he brought, one of them said, "Couldn't you have played Hank Williams instead of that crazy?" Anyway, but Andy says to them, "I brought Mr. Mozart with me into the hole, and I just played Mozart over and over in my head." He says, "It's in here," pointing to his head. He said, "It's in here. That's the beauty of music. They can't take it from you. Haven't you ever felt that way about music?" And Red, the Morgan Freeman character, says, "I used to play a mean harmonica as a younger man, but I lost interest. It doesn't make much sense in here, in prison." And Andy said, "Here's where it makes the most sense. You need it so you won't forget." Red says, "Forget?" He says, "Forget that there are places in the world that aren't made out of concrete, out of stone, that there's something inside that they can't get to, that they can't touch. It's yours." He says, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Hope." Music tells us, or hints, or points that there's something bigger, there's something better, there's something greater. I've read quite a few books about music. I'm just so intrigued with how people think about it. And there are a number of books written by people who would say religiously they hold no religious belief. They have no religion. They don't believe in anything religion. And yet it's almost as if they can't help themselves. At some point in the book, they start talking and they use words like awe and wonder and eternal and transcendent. That's what music does. Music points us to something bigger and outer. I have 57 points tonight that I'd like to, I think I only have 3 or maybe 4, but I feel like I could expand it to a lot more. But so my first point is just music points us to something bigger. Secondly is music heightens a sense of tension. So many musics, and anthropologists love to say that every culture has had some kind of music. Every culture in the world today has a kind or kinds of musics. And a common theme in a lot of musics, classical, jazz, rock, so many of them, is tension and release. A piece of music comes to a point of tension, and then there's a release. Tension and release, a cycle. Perhaps one of the greatest displays of this, or displayers of this, was Mozart. And Mozart would create tension and release it very quickly. Create, release. and rather quickly. So when you listen to Mozart, you don't have to feel the tension for very long. So he goes, dun, 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 dun. Oh no, there's tension. How long are we going to have to hold on to it? Dun, 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 dun. Oh, good, not very long at all. Sibelius, on the other hand, could give you a nervous breakdown. He stretches and stretches and stretches. I think his Fifth Symphony is 45 minutes of building tension that he doesn't release until the very end, the last 6 seconds. And you're like, oh, is there an oxygen tank nearby? I love it, but when I've tried to play that piece of music for my wife, we don't get very far in it. Could you? She used to say, "Could you turn that down?" Now it's, "Could you just turn that off?" There are times when you have like long trips that you have to take by yourself in your car. This would be a good piece for that. So I apologize to anybody who's like a real. I love Sibelius, but tension, release. Dvorak, we were talking earlier, he's perhaps my favorite. And if you're familiar with his Ninth Symphony, by the way, for the next few minutes, I'm going to be just really kind of nerdy, so try to go with me, or at least, well, don't play anything on your phone, but if you need to. So Dvorak was just a genius of creating tension and releasing it and creating it. And you may know his most famous symphony called the New World Symphony. And there's a theme in that repeats so many different times with all sorts of variations. Dun, 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 dun. But then in the fourth movement, he introduces this new theme, a very strong theme. Dum, bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. You know it? Some of you are shaking your heads. Some of you are thinking, does he have medication with him? But it's only going to get worse. Anyway, but Dvorak has these two themes kind of playing off each other in the fourth movement, and they start moving closer and closer to each other, and you almost feel like this is like two trains heading towards each other. There's going to be a crash. And sure enough, in the very last minute, he has half of the orchestra play one theme and the other half play the other, and they meet in this terrible clash, and it's, and then he releases it, and it's this most wonderful release that brings the symphony to an end. And, you know, most symphonies of that period, they would end with dum, ba-da-bum, ba-da-da-dum, and it would be over. Unless it's Beethoven's Fifth, in which case it's dun 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 dun. Ludwig, bring it to a close already. Come on, I got a train to. Sorry, but Dvorak ends his New World Symphony not with da da bum, but and it goes and it goes and it goes and it diminishes, and it's like as if to say we created this tension. And now we want it to release forever. Music does this wonderful job of creating tension and releasing it. And it helps us feel tension more and then enjoy the release more. Some of you are saying, could you play an excerpt? Yes. So, all right, so here's a piece of music. You may recognize it. You probably will recognize it. I don't want to talk about it. I just want to play it. It's about 4 minutes long, and I want you to listen for how the composer created tension and then starts to release it, but then doesn't, and holds on to it a little bit longer, and then releases, but then creates more. And again, you think it's going to release, but no, he hangs on to it and holds it a little bit longer, and it's created to help you feel tension. I hope you'll be able to catch that. I always feel like I need to apologize that I'm going to start speaking after that. I think some of you recognize that it's the theme to the movie Schindler's List. And if ever there was a movie that wanted to help us feel tension and angst, it was that movie and that piece of music, written by John Williams, performed by Yitzhak Perlman and an orchestra. Music that is tension and release and sadness and heartache, it helps us feel things we need to feel. Some of us struggle to be able to have the emotions that are appropriate in situations. I myself have had numerous episodes of battles of depression, and music has been a significant part of the restoration. There are times when people sometimes think that depression is sadness. No, sadness is a sign of vitality. The problem with depression is you feel nothing. And so music can wake up and stir up and soften up tensions that need to be softened up, or tensions of things that need to be tensed. I'm not saying it in English, I'm very sorry. But music can help us feel bad about things that need to be felt bad about, and can also help us be overjoyed about things that maybe we're not able to manufacture all of the joy. But there are true joys in life that are just so beautiful, and we want to express them in the full, and music can be helpful. That's why music is such an important part of religious worship. So many, not just Christian, Jewish, I mean, so many, but yep, there are so many commandments in the Bible to sing. Do you know that? Over 150 times we're commanded to sing. Why is that? Because singing is this expression that involves our whole entire being. When we sing and we think about words, it engages our intellect. When we sing with our voice, it stirs our emotions, and it also vibrates our whole body. And there are times that we need to sing songs in minor keys so that we can confess sin and get right with a God who hates sin, but also offers forgiveness for sin. This is what Alexander Solzhenitsyn said, not about music, but about the need to feel bad about certain things. He said, if only it were all so simple, if only there were evil people somewhere insidiously committing evil deeds, and it were necessary only to separate them from the rest of us or get rid of them. But the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being, and who is willing to destroy a piece of his own heart? So music can help us confess sin. It can help us lament well. It can help us grieve over things that need to be grieved over, and then can help us experience release. Third thing, I hope you'll be able, music can stimulate creativity. Music can help us think about something and then keep thinking about it, or think about it more, or think about theme and variations. So many pieces of music, classical, jazz especially, but so many are theme and variations on the theme. And good composers seemingly never run out of ideas. They take a very simple theme and they just create a variation, and then another variation, and then another. And when you listen to music like that, it can stimulate your own creativity. They've done studies on this. They've attached all sorts of things to your brain and looking at things. And when you listen to creative music, it stimulates creativity. Do you know that there are collections of pieces of music, most of them by Mozart, for pregnant women to listen to while their baby is developing? And it will help the baby develop and be more creative. I haven't figured out. I can't offer studies, but I've read about it so many times. And you can go online and look for music collections for pregnant mothers. And so I'm not making this up. But so theme and variation. So let me let you in on a lecture. I'll only play a little bit about theme and variation in creativity. This is a musician and theologian named Jeremy Begbie, and he's giving a lecture about how the arts can stimulate spiritual growth. So, I'm really hoping this works.
That the most wonderful things can come out of the most unpromising material. And that is extraordinarily important in leadership. Always to see the possibilities, even in the most unlikely material, and sometimes, I think, especially in the most unlikely material. Take a theme like this. That's by Paganini. It's a caprice for violin, and it's had a kind of mesmerizing hold on many musicians, many composers, and many have written variations on it. The most famous set was a set of variations by Rachmaninoff, in which he took that particular theme, and he wrote this vast piece for piano and orchestra, variations on the theme of Paganini. The most famous variation is this. But you might wonder, well, how on earth do you get from to? Well, if we take this, take the second part of that theme, turn it upside down, take it from the minor into the major, and then flip it up into a new key, we get this. Who would have thought that out of this angular, banal, cranky, irritated little tune could come something as beautiful as that? So the art...
I love that. So music points us to another world. Music helps us feel tension and release. Music can stimulate creativity. By the way, commercial. So I'm guessing a whole lot of you knew that piece, that Rachmaninoff variation. But how many of you have listened to the whole entire 22-minute theme and variations? Okay, find it online, listen to the whole thing. Oh, it's stunning. And so many of the variations, though, are like the tune. I mean, there's times when you feel like I'm in a Russian winter, I'm marching, somebody passed the vodka, I mean, it's just like, what? And then all of a sudden it opens up to this oasis of, keep going, don't let it, it's just stunning. So I'm telling you, 22 minutes, it'll change your life. One final point, and then I'm going to open it up for questions to see if you have some questions that I might be able to help us with exploring and enjoying music further. So the fourth point I want to say, and then I do want to share a little bit more about how this has affected me personally, and then we'll do Q&A. But music helps us long for resolution. It's the flip side of the feeling tension. Not only does music help us feel tension, it helps us feel resolution and long for resolution. And here's this thing. It's so intriguing. It's in so many musics, plural, so many pieces of music where the beginning and the end are very similar. A piece of music begins with a statement of a theme, and then it goes away from the theme, and it develops, and then it comes back to that theme. In popular songs, popular jazz tunes, and popular music, it's very often a theme, a repetition of the theme, then go away from the theme, and then come back. A, B, A. It's amazing how many pieces of music fit that A, B, A pattern. You're thinking, can you give me an example? Sure. I should have known it from the very start. That's A. This girl will leave you with a broken heart. That's A repeated. Listen, people, what I'm telling you, that's B. I keep away from a runaround Sue. Would you like me to keep singing? No. People say, that was good, thank you, stop. But A, B, A. So many classical pieces of music are A, and then another theme that's similar to A, and then a development section. And the development section can go for a very long time. Dvorak can go a really long time developing. Beethoven can. But then they come back and they repeat the theme, and it's like, oh, we're back home. We were home. We really liked home. We went away. That was nice. But, oh, it's so good to come back home. And there's something about that that makes us long on a larger scale for home or resolution. Again, that musicologist I quoted earlier, Robert Greenberg, he has a whole series of lectures about the Goldberg variations by Bach. He says, and so the Goldberg variations is a theme, and then all of these different variations, and then it comes home, and he says, though in its return, the aria, the theme, is unchanged, we now hear a world of possibilities and experience implicit within it what we could not possibly have heard before at the outset of the piece. We are wiser at this point of the piece. And the serenity and completion of the return offers are not unlike those one might feel when looking back across a long and well-lived life. And so many pieces of music, they establish us at home, they make us feel really good at home, they take us away, and then they return. And is there a better piece of music that illustrates that than the piece we heard played on the piano of Somewhere Over the Rainbow? Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and then it repeats, and then it goes away. And no, I'm not going to sing it, but I will play Judy Garland singing it. But so I want you to listen when she sings it of the A, B, A. But first, let me tell you, I'm sure you all know who wrote that music of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, right? Harold Arlen, of course. It was on the tip of your tongue. But you may not know who wrote the lyrics. Anybody know who wrote the lyrics? I didn't either until I did research. Yip Harburg. Yes, his name is Yip. And Yip Harburg wrote the lyrics of all of the pieces of music in The Wizard of Oz, and he wrote lots and lots of lyrics of lots of Broadway show tunes. He was a genius at writing lyrics, and he thought deeply about how a song works. Listen to what Yip Harburg said. Words make you think a thought. Music makes you feel a feeling, but a song makes you feel a thought. Isn't that great? A song makes you feel a thought. And is there a better illustration of that than Somewhere Over the Rainbow? It makes you feel the thought that there's some other place that's better than this. There's some place where troubles melt like lemon drops, where dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. By the way, when they decided they were going to make a musical of The Wizard of Oz, obviously they were basing it on the books by L. Frank Baum. In the original book, in the series of books, there's no rainbow. Yip Harburg came up with the idea, this is a story about longing to go back home. I need a visual image or a musical image. And so he came up with the idea of the rainbow. There's a biography of Yip Harburg. It's not a bestseller, sadly, but it's titled, Who Put the Rainbow in the Wizard of Oz? Okay, enough. Let's listen. See if you can hear the AABA theme pattern, but best of all, see if you can feel the thought.
that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Did you catch the AABA? More importantly, did you feel the thought? Did you catch that there was a little extra thing thrown on at the end? You're following AABA, and then they add this thing. They call it a coda. I love codas. What codas are, you don't really want the song to end yet, do you? Let's just add a little more. I love it. Well, let me just share a little bit personally about this, and then we'll open it up for questions and maybe answers. I'll try that too. But I want you to know that music is a great love of my life. For a while, it was the center of my life, or it was the God of my life. It was what I worshiped. And I thought music was going to connect me to some kind of transcendent experience, or to God, or to something. Religion hadn't quite worked all that well for me, and I had tried a number of things, but I thought music was going to be the thing. I played saxophone in high school, and then I was a music major in college. And I went to Temple University's music school, which is a very good one in Philadelphia. And every Saturday night, pretty much every Saturday night, I went downtown to the Philadelphia Academy of Music to listen to the Philadelphia Orchestra play some of the absolute most beautiful music ever. And I kept thinking that someday I was going to hear the piece of music that was going to do it for me. There was going to be the piece of music that was going to be, that's it. That's the transcendent experience I've been searching for. And it never quite came. Some came really close. Pretty much everything by Dvorak did. Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake, I thought was it. There's this major theme in it, and I thought, oh, this is it. I finally found it. And then Tchaikovsky kind of morphed it and took it into another direction. I want to say, no, wait, come back, please, no. But no matter how great the piece of music was, every piece of music ended. And then the concert was over. And apologies to any of you who are from Philadelphia, but if ever there's a rude awakening in life, it's going from Tchaikovsky and Dvorak and Mozart to the Philadelphia subway system. Lord have mercy. I had to take the subway back to my dorm room, and let's just say it ain't as pretty as Rachmaninoff. And but even before getting on, before even leaving the concert hall, there was this terrible disappointment. And I thought, when am I going to find the piece of music that's going to do it for me? In the middle of my sophomore year, a close friend of mine died in a very tragic accident. And I remember sitting at his funeral thinking that I'm not getting the answers I'm looking for. I'm not getting it from music, and I'm not getting it from the other places that I looked, which was mostly absurd literature, Woody Allen movies, and beer. And none of those things were working. I thought music had the best likelihood of it, but it wasn't. And so I started reading a whole lot more of things people had recommended to me. I started reading C.S. Lewis's book, Mere Christianity. I started reading the Gospel of Matthew in the New Testament. And it all started pulling together that what I was looking for was a relationship with God. I wasn't going to find it in music. Music is a very good gift, but it's a lousy God. It's a pointer. It's a secondary thing. And when you make it a primary thing, it doesn't work. And when I read C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity, and I got to the point where he said about there are all these disappointments in life, whether it's a job or a spouse or a vacation, there's always disappointment. And he says, I'm not talking about the bad ones, I'm talking about the very good ones, the very best. Chemistry may be a lovely career, and she may be a lovely spouse, and Italy was a great place to go on vacation. But there's always this letdown. And he said, there's three ways people deal with the disappointment. Either they keep looking for another one, another spouse, another job, another vacation, and that doesn't work. Or they become cynical, and they go, yeah, I used to go chasing after that. And then Lewis said there's a Christian way. And he said, if I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. And that brought it together for me, because that's what I was looking for in music and all those other experiences. And it was provided for me by who Jesus was and what Jesus did. And Jesus connected me to God in a way that music couldn't. Again, here's what Lewis said in another place. He said, the books or the music in which we thought the beauty was located will betray us if we trust to them. It was not in them. It only came through them. And what came through them was longing. These things, the beauty, the memory of our own past, they are good images of what we really desire. But if they are mistaken for the thing itself, they turn into dumb idols, breaking the hearts of their worshipers. For they are not the thing itself, they are only the scent of a flower we have not found, the echo of a tune we have not heard, news from a country we have never yet visited. So all I've been trying to say tonight is, maybe music points us to another world because there is another world. Maybe music stirs us about beauty because there is an ultimate beauty. Maybe music creates tension because we need to feel tension. We need to feel bad about things that are wrong in the world and in our own hearts. But maybe music makes us long for a resolution because there is a resolution. I find music to be the most beautiful stimulus of my own spiritual growth and my connection to God. And I recommend it highly to you, both the music and where it points. So I mentioned Rachmaninoff a bunch of times. In some ways, he's a hero of mine, not just because I love his music, but his life was very, very difficult. He had some very, very difficult things, and yet he chose joy, and he chose faith, and he chose hope. He chose to believe in God, even though he saw some really terrible things. He was part of the bourgeoisie in Russia that got kicked out of power, and he lost everything. He escaped Russia with his family on a sled and took very little with him, escaped to Finland, eventually he got to America, and then he became a great success as a pianist and as a composer and even as a conductor in some cases. And at one point in his life, he said, I am welcomed everywhere in the world except my home. He never went back to Russia. He was never allowed back to Russia. But late in his life, he was interviewed, and someone asked, was there any event that determined your vocation or that confirmed it? And he replied, no. I owe to God the gifts he's given me, to God alone. Without him, I am nothing. And I just find tremendous hope in reading about his life and how he continued to hope and to hang on even in the midst of difficulty. So, KJ, I think you want to say a few things. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Randy. I hope you all appreciated what Randy shared tonight. I laughed at a couple of your analogies. I remember early on in life, being with a friend who wouldn't sing in church, and he said, "My voice is terrible," and it's almost similar to what you said. Don't worry, God's got the master soundboard. He can turn you down. He just wants to see you singing. But I do think music inspires us, or does affect us physically. I listened probably to a little too much angry music when I was younger, and that would get me in the wrong kinds of moods. But, and this will date me, but back in the 1980s when I competed in sports, I was a student athlete in college, I used to really play LL Cool J's Mama Said Knock You Out right before certain competitions when I would step in. And I mean, it would get me really amped up for the competition, so I would go in there ready to go. So I'll try out some of this classical stuff. Thank you, Randy. No, Max Richter is I'm a big Max Richter fan, and I think he's done some fun stuff. Thanks for coming tonight. I know traffic was terrible, and a lot of you weathered that. I hope it was worth it for you. I know it was for me. I'll stick around if you want to know a little bit more about the C.S. Lewis Institute. If you're a C.S. Lewis fellow, raise your hand. Grab one of them. They can tell you a little bit more about the Institute. That way you don't have to hear me give an advertisement from up here. But we got some literature in the back. Take some of the, the great little, there's a booklet on there about the arts and imagination. There's a book out there about C.S. Lewis, one on how to help hurting people. We really do want to reach out and help you grow in your discipleship in every area, the arts, spiritual formation. Speaking of which, I love that little video clip that you played by Jeremy Begbie. 1 week from tonight, if you guys feel like driving out to the suburbs, we have another event at Glen Ellen Covenant Church, and it's going to be the arts as tools for spiritual formation. Dr. Terry Glaspie will be there. He's the author of 75 masterpieces every Christian should know and Not a Tame Lion. He's going to be speaking on how we can use the arts, very much in line with what Randy spoke tonight. So if you want to join us, same time, but at Glen Ellen Covenant Church, just look us up online. Other than that, let me just say a prayer over you before you go tonight, because you're going to need it for traffic, and and then you can all mob Randy with your questions. Father, we are grateful for this evening. Thank you for the way you've worked in Randy's life. Give him relief next summer in Austin as the heat bears back down on him. Bless him and his family and all the wonderful grandchildren that he has, Lord. He's in a great season of life. He's writing some new books. I pray that you will just keep his mind sharp and just open up more avenues of ministry. We're grateful for him here in Chicago. I also thank you for Renew Chicago and Park Community Church and their heart for the city and their heart to make you known across the city. So I pray you bless and amplify their efforts. Pray all this in your name. Amen. Thank you, Renew. Thank you, Park. I think we're about done. Have a good night.